Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It is time once more for V8SCOPS supports just in time for Enduro season. The last 3 rounds of V8SCOPS for 2024, and they each have their own support night before the big endurance race on Sunday. For the first round of the Enduro Cup, we are at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari in Imola, a classic Italian circuit here with plenty of history, some of it with a bit of a dark tinge, it has to be said, but it's had a very bright history on the iRacing service ever since it was added, and we're looking forward to some good racing tonight in the GTC and V8 categories. Here live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Kick, it's me, Reese Gardner, with David Haynes in the commentary box alongside me. Jay Kennedy is behind the scenes pressing all the buttons and bringing you these live pictures. Well, David, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Imola never disappoints. It's one of my favorite tracks to spectate at, and we've got TCR and GT4 to take us away tonight.
Yeah, it's a great track. You can't go wrong with having a long front straight, just one big long straight, and a bunch of undulating, challenging corners, off-camber curbs, climbing, descending, all of that. So really great racetrack for sports cars, GT4s, touring cars, all of that, as well as single-seaters, which is one of their main priorities, particularly when it plays host to the Formula 1 MSC Cruisers Gran Premio del Made in Italy e del Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
Yes, indeed. They do like their long names in this part of Italy, don't they? And this isn't a particularly long circuit by many international standards. Just under 5k is long, and a lap around here is completed pretty quickly in a Formula 1 car. In these cars, they will take a bit more to complete a circuit around this place, but they have to negotiate plenty of chicanes on their way around it. You have Tamburello at turns 2, 3 and 4, Villeneuve at 5 and 6, and then Variante Alta at turns 14 and 15. The rest of these corners, I think, are defined mainly by curved braking zones and making sure that you're able to ride those curbs effectively without getting an off track.
Yeah, a handful of sequences of corners where you can go in with a lot of speed and make the corner, but the best way to get through the complex and exit quickly is to just whoa it up a little bit more for the first part. So the opening bit of Tamburello, if you can get onto a better line to run through 3 and 4, you can sometimes have more speed on the exit by braking a little earlier on the way in. Same for the Villeneuve chicane, same for how much curb you maybe want to take through Variante Alta. A few times you got to make a decision about having your biscuit now or down the next straight.
Yeah, exactly. The man who's eating all the biscuits right now in the GT4 class is Luke Swan, but he's only 34 points ahead of Russell Pepperell in the Kiwi Sim Racing number 69. Lacasas, Pavlovich and Pignata round out the top 5 in the GT4 class. We've had a bit of a low turnout for this round. There's only 3 GT4s present here, Pepperell, Pavlovich and Taylor Oakes. Meanwhile, in TCR, Brenton Hobson has been largely dominant this season, with a few big blips, particularly at Sonoma earlier on in the year. Regardless, the Synergy Sim Racing Audi RS3 LMS is certainly looking for the championship from here, but he's still getting chased by his teammate Damon Mulqueen. Meanwhile, the format for tonight is the same as it's always been for V8SCOPS supports, a 40-minute race with one compulsory pit stop, minimum of stop and go. So you don't have to take fuel and tyres if you don't need to. Just stop in the box and away you go again. Manual safety cars, of course, as always, thanks to the crew at Aussie Online Gaming that have taken over V8SCOPS administration duties this year. We are already into the race, and we're getting ready for those 40 minutes of action to begin. In the GT4 class, it's Russell Pepperell and Peter Pavlovich on the front row. In the Mercedes, meanwhile, the McLaren of Taylor Oakes rounding out. Only 3 GT4 cars present here tonight. It's a Synergy 1-2 in the TCR class with Hobson and Mulqueen, the championship top 2 on the front row. They are joined by Robert Henry of Kiwi Sim Racing and Robbie Bradbury of Pacific Esports Racing. So we've got an Audi, a Hyundai and 2 Hondas starting in the TCRs, 2 Mercedes and a McLaren in the GT4s. It's only a little field, but I'm sure it's going to be a fun race nonetheless.
You do then get a little bit of variety across it as well with Hyundai, Honda, Audi, TCR cars there, and the McLaren with the headlights going strong in these conditions in the GT4.
Yeah, speaking of the conditions, we have a pretty cool track out there today. It's overcast and the track is only 21 degrees Celsius. Plenty of wind as well, 16 k's an hour from the northwest. That should result in a slight headwind down the front straight on the run up to Tamburello, and a fair chance of rain as well, but I'm not seeing anything on the weather radar just yet, and it doesn't look like there's any precipitation yet to come, so we'll have to wait and see on that one as they're rolling away on the run up to Variante Alta, which is going to be one of the prime passing opportunities around here. Very difficult chicane, curbs that can be ridden quite easily in these cars, but like you mentioned, David, do you eat the biscuit on entry or on the exit? That is the big question.
Yeah, you see those curves, there's kind of 2 stages to them as well. The red and the white bit, really good to clip that with your inside wheels. But the yellow curve, even taller, more disruptive to your car's bounce and ride height, and maybe even skimming the under tray as well. So sometimes, depending on the car on the way in, you'll launch across heaps of that. On the exit, taking too much of it as you then try to get the power. I've seen drivers spin out from there.
Yeah, absolutely. The GT4s have traction control at their disposal, so I don't think there's much of a chance of them spinning unless they absolutely clobber those curbs on the exit. Pepperell here, saw him active in the NZ Esports Hyperfiber League over the last 4 weeks, and he's come off that strong and is back in his Mercedes GT4 for the start, and he's going nice and early. Green flag flies, and we are racing in the GT4s. The TCRs still forming up and getting ready for their own green flag as things get going here, side by side between Oakes and Pavlovich on the way down to turn 1. It looks like Oakes is going to try and go for it at Tamburello, but Pavlovich strong right around the outside in turn 2. Already it's on in TCR as well, with Robert Henry trying to get past Damon Mulqueen but yielding on the way into the corners. The TCRs start out with quite cold tyres. They take a while to get their grip levels up.
Like the GT4s fare too much better, though they're a little easier to handle with some of those aids that you talked about. But all of them on a cold track here, you've got to be just a little careful initially as you battle door to door trying to grab a big position.
Let's see what Robert Henry can do here. Nice and close to Damon Mulqueen. You never know, Synergy might get a real race on their hands here with not that many other competitors in this field. Bradbury started to drop off the back of the top 3 TCRs. We'll have to wait and see if he can get something done in the pit cycle when that comes around. For now, they're just sussing things out, making sure that their tyres and their brakes are up to temperature. Very important to get the brakes up to temperature in a TCR because, man, I've driven these cars plenty and I know that squeal when the brakes are cold.
It goes away eventually. There's a few cars that have got that, just a bit of squeak from the brakes until they're fully warmed up. First time leaping across the curb, and again, it's getting lots of the first curve, not too much of the second curve as it's trying to set up to get to power. Takes it downhill to a big braking zone, extended because it's downhill into the first of the reverses and first of the laps are complete.
Yeah, Russell Pepperell was over a second faster in qualifying than Peter Pavlovich, and is already out to a massive lead at the end of the first lap. So looking forward to seeing what he can do from out there. It seems like Oaks has dropped off the back of Pavlovich as well. So for now, the GT4 race is in its own little bubble. Everyone's just trying to set the best laps they can. Look forward to the strategy to come. It's a little bit closer in TCR. Brenton Hobson leading by not much from Damon Mulqueen, and it seems like Rob Henry is still pressuring the Synergy drivers at the end of this first lap.
I didn't see as much slipstream as I might have expected down that front straight. Hobson 226 k's an hour, Mulqueen 226, Henry 228. So quite a night I might have expected. It does feel like a really long straight. You come out of Rivazza, you go past the pit lane, you go past the pit exit, and the straight keeps on going down to the braking zone at Camarillo. You feel like you're halfway and you're not.
Yeah, indeed. It's a very difficult circuit, this Imola track, and plenty of places to get off tracks. And the TCRs, which depend on rotating on the brakes, corners like this one at Acca Minerale, very difficult to get right. You know, the car wants to rotate on the way in, and that's good because you know, the front wheel drive, you have a ton of understeer on the power, so you've got to get the car rotated on entry. So you run the brake bias a long way back, but in these curved braking zones, they can sometimes be less of a blessing than a curse, and it looks like Rob Henry, in one of the few completely straight braking zones on this circuit, unfortunately overcooked it at Variante Alta. He's lost touch with them.
Yes, he went in very deep, and then he was offline for the second part of the chicane, which we talked about is so critical. So he didn't get to power well out of it, dropped a significant amount of time, but didn't go flying through the air. He was just offline wide through the first bit, lost time for the second bit, would have lost time all the way down to the braking zone of Rivazza, and that's where the about 2 seconds has come from.
Yeah, indeed it has. Well, now Mr. Henry will have to try and make up that time himself. You can see on the Zoom feed that he was a little frustrated with that mistake that he made. You know, in a race with such a small field as this, it's even more important that you try and stay in touch with the cars ahead. And yeah, he lost nearly 1.5 seconds to Mulqueen and Hobson, the two closest cars on track at the moment, and the lead of TCR, as that's another mistake there for Robert Henry, just catching the gravel trap on the way out of Villeneuve. And well, that's obviously not ideal. It's brought him in touch with his fellow Honda Civic.
Yeah, Bradbury gets a little bit closer as it's Henry going off-roading in the exit of the Villeneuve chicane. It's quite a short run to Tosa. So it cost a little bit, it won't cost too much. And that's the view that your groceries have.
Yes, indeed it is. Go for a trip to Aldi, and that is exactly what they see as you make your way down the M1. In any case,
I'm imagining I'm a baguette and a packet of hot dogs.
yes, I'm imagining a nice chicken breast with some breadcrumbs for a shitty time. Anyway, making their way through Variante Alta, once again, just seems like there's not much Henry can do right now to catch up to these Synergy guys, as the fastest lap once again going to Russell Pepperell. 1:50.3 is the quickest overall time. Quickest time in the TCRs so far is actually Mulqueen. He was, I'd say, about half a tenth faster than Hobson on the last lap. He's got the benefit of the slipstream. That's the main reason why he's making his way to yet another fast lap on this occasion. 1:54.9 that time for Mulqueen, 1:55.0 for Hobson. I think they're just managing the pace now.
And again, not a lot to talk about for slipstream as far as end of straight speeds go. Now, the Audi and the Hyundai do have different gear ratios, so even if the the end of straight speeds look the same. It's possible that you still gain time from a slipstream if you've got gearing that lets you just accelerate well early, but tops out a little earlier.
Yeah, unfortunately for the TCR drivers, there's not much they can do in terms of gear ratios. They're fixed per car. I think on acceleration, the Audi traditionally has more of an advantage. It uses the Volkswagen DSG gearbox, at least the car that iRacing scanned, to put into the sim. The other TCR cars use a more conventional racing sequential gearbox, so sometimes their ratios are a little more suited to the high-speed tracks in particular, but on acceleration, the Audi has them beat.
Yes, the modern Audi TCR's sequential gearbox is made by Drexler, six-speed racing sequential. Doesn't play nicely with its drive shafts.
No, certainly. We're almost a quarter of the way through the race now, and Pepperell is dominant up the front of the field, continuing to run a second faster per lap than Peter Pavlovich. And unless there's some horrendous mistake for Russell Pepperell, he almost has this race locked down. All he's got to do is make his way to the finish. He's got to ride these curbs properly, though. You notice that around this circuit, there's a couple different colours of green beyond the curbs here. The dark green AstroTurf, you want to try and stay off that. It's quite slippery. Wherever there's light green, that's just painted concrete that offers you a little more grip.
That's my new book for sim racing masochists, 50 Shades of Green. And Pepperell was with a purple sector through the first sector this time. So we talked about the tyre pressure and temperatures coming up, and I think it is slowly building towards they're quicker now than they were lap 1 or lap 2. So this is trending to even improve the fastest lap of the race that Russell Pepperell already has to his name. There's, it's a hug of the first apex and just a kiss on the second.
Yeah, you want to try and take, I think, as much track out of the first apex at Variante Alta as possible, and just stay off the second curb just to try and stabilize the car on the exit. Trail braking is incredibly important at Imola as well, particularly through the Ravazzas there, the last left-handers of the lap. The second one's a little bit faster, and it's all about getting the speed onto the start-finish straight. And 1 minute 50.5 there for Pepperell. Still not quite to the level of his fastest lap so far, but at the moment he's just racing himself. He's got a lead of about 6.5 seconds over Peter Pavlovich as things stand. Meanwhile, things are still a little bit closer in TCR. Brendan Hobson, I think, the only driver who's really under threat in this race.
And just finally on the timing there for Russell Pepperell, the 0.2 of a second that he lost were through Aqua Minerale and Variante Alta, the two places where trying to push to reset the fastest lap of the race could get you into trouble. The descending and turning braking zone into Aqua Minerale, and of course launching across the curves at Variante Alta. So Pepperell need take no risk. First and second in TCR might have just a tiny bit more appetite for pushing the limits in search of victory.
Yeah, there's only a few rounds to go for 2024, and Mulqueen, I think, is still mathematically within striking distance of Hobson for the championship, but he's got to outscore him by a fair amount at each race to make that happen. If he can get himself into the lead, that's just the first step. He has to rely on something else happening to Hobbo. But of course, these guys at Synergy Sim Racing work very well together. This is one of the longest standing teams in Australian sim racing, and there's a great sense of community among the guys that drive for them. They work together very well. Mulqueen plying his trade in TCR in European series, and that's how he got all of his pace, and he passed a lot of that on to Brendan Hobson, who seems has taken the ball and run with it.
Yeah, it's pretty evenly matched and having a good race, potentially chatting with each other, potentially bouncing strategy ideas off each other. Yeah, Pepperell goes and resets the fastest lap of the race. He figured out Aqua Minerale and Variante Alta this time around. And Reese, look, this racetrack and Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps have in common.
What's that?
They used used to be public roads, and then the racing was so popular, they had to turn it into a permanent race course and build new roads around.
That is correct. It's actually something that that completely exited my mind. Imola first built in the early 1960s, and I think the impetus for the construction of this circuit in the first place was a new road being constructed down from where the Ravazzas are to pretty much the area of Tosa, and ultimately a bunch of guys got together and decided, hey, we're going to try and turn this into a racetrack and start holding races on these public roads. And yeah, like you say, eventually it got to the point where they were like, we're going to have to close this place off and let it be a permanent circuit all of its own. The track's been through a few layout changes since then, but it still follows the same basic shape that it's held all those years.
Yes, very much a boot-shaped shape when you look at it. And when you look at the track map, you look at the surrounding roads, you see, oh yeah, the front straight and around Tamburello and Tosa was the road around the town that followed alongside the river until they built a new one around it. And there are still private houses and such on the inside of the circuit here, sort of new access roads to get to them, 1 or 2 tunnels underneath the racing circuit. There's even, I think it's an athletics club and football stadium on the inside of Tamburello as well. So a lot of the old things still hang around the racetrack, even though it is now no longer public road and 100% permanent racetrack.
Yeah, it's a distinctly urbanized racetrack compared to other racetracks around the world. There it is. That's exactly what you were talking about there, the athletics stadium on the inside of Tamburello. Yeah, you go up into the air in iRacing, move the camera around, and you can see all the surroundings of this racetrack. It really is a beautiful location. It's across the river from the actual town of Imola itself, but still very heavily built up around this racetrack.
Relatively new-ish to, well, probably not. I think it's like 2015, 2016 or something on iRacing, but I remember when we didn't have it, and now I know that we do have it, so it does look pretty good around the surroundings. That, right there, with the view into the braking zone at Ravazza, great overtaking opportunity, dangerous place to be a cold beverage on a Friday afternoon.
Absolutely, and if you're the owner of that property, can you imagine how much they rake in per year from people getting one of the best spots in motorsport to watch a race from? That is fantastic.
If a Las Vegas hotel room can go for $20,000 on Grand Prix weekend, I reckon that balcony could go for, at least 5,000 euros.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love this circuit. It's got such a rich history and you know, just a fantastic layout as well. You know, obviously the layout changes down here at Tamburello and at Villeneuve have not so nice reasons for existing. Of course, the circuit's notorious for being the place where Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna lost their lives in 1994, and that's the reason the chicanes are there. Those are the corners that they crashed at. But I think all up, despite those changes, the circuit has managed to bounce back from the horrible Grand Prix weekend of 1994 and has cemented itself as quite a challenge.
94, I think, was really a turning point for Formula One, where they made a lot of the changes that it would take till Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s passing to take hold in NASCAR and other places around motorsport. So horrible, tragic, always remembered. There's the monument is here around the racetrack. There it is with the Brazilian flags, and year on year, motorsport fans come here, they update it, they leave their tributes. They never forget changes that were made. It doesn't feel like an empty remembrance.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we like to see. Beautiful circuit, beautiful location, and a place where history, both dark and bright, is respected.
It's not just 2 chicanes and changes. No, it's medical procedures, it's car safety rules, it's driver safety equipment, it's the whole thing, not just this 2 corners at this racetrack that changed.
Yeah, correct. There's also been a couple of places where the circuit was changed to actually be simpler. Down here at Acqua Minerale, there used to be a chicane right before the corner, and it used to follow a slightly different route. But the post-94 changes included bringing Acqua Minerale more sort of inward of itself, and that's the profile that it follows to this day. The Ravazza corners also followed a slightly different profile, and there used to be a sort of double chicane at the end of the lap. Variante Bassa was the name of the chicane. But the changes that this track underwent in 2008 certainly put paid to that. Variante Bassa still technically exists. It's that temporary motorcycle chicane that you can see just popping into view in the top right as our TCR leaders come through. That chicane follows the basic profile of the original chicane that was there, but now it's a long front straight, as it was when the track opened.
Stadio Romeo Galli on the inside of the track there, home to Atletica Imola. Bit of stretch on, get a jog going. They've got grandstands there, they've got a circuit there, but they don't quite have as much grandstand capacity or as long of a track as the racing circuit.
And I'd say the competitors on that interior circuit move quite a bit slower than even these TCR cars.
A dig at TCR or a dig at joggers?
It's a dig at joggers, though I suppose a jog is a good way to warm up for a race in some of these cars, be it real or sim. You know, TCRs, they require a lot of work from the driver to get them around a track fast. And I should know, I've raced TCR competitively on iRacing for a few seasons, and it's really difficult to extract consistent pace from these cars over the course of a race. You're constantly balancing the rear end, constantly monitoring the front tyre wear versus the rear tyre wear, winding the brake bias back. You're constantly adjusting it over the course of a race. It's a proper workout driving one of these front-wheel drive touring cars.
Another view around the circuit, of course. The fans dressed in red and yellow are by far the most numerous, whatever the category is that races here. Formula 1, World Endurance Championship, European Le Mans Series had a good race here this year.
They certainly did. And oh, hello. I think we might have to move away from the podcast style of commentary for just a moment, as Rob Henry is our first taker on pit lane from the TCR class. He's waited till the midpoint of the race to go for his stop here. 12.2 seconds in the lane, and it looks like we'll be waiting on our GT4s now to take to the pits as well. Pepperell's going to stay out. I think Pepperell has a nice luxury here, being as far in the lead as he is. 17 seconds now the gap or thereabouts. He can afford to pit basically anywhere, anytime he likes, and if he ends up making a mistake on pit road, it's not going to hurt him all that much considering the pace he's got.
Yeah, having just crossed the halfway point in this 40-minute race, 20 minutes down, just under 20 minutes to go, I suppose that's a motivation as good as any to do your pit stop and slice this meal in half.
Looks like there's been a bit of slicing and dicing for Mulqueen through the gravel trap out of Villeneuve earlier on this lap. He's lost a bit of time to Brenton Hobson for the TCR lead, but other than that, not many other changes in the running order thus far. So what Pepperell can do coming out of Piratella, that beautiful left-hander, one of the fastest corners on the racetrack, and then run on down to Acqua Minerale, try to stay off the curb on the inside. You can run across the AstroTurf there on the exit, but in a more powerful car and one that doesn't have traction control, it can sometimes be the end of your race.
Would you like some very, very good news?
I would.
Just to the left of the circuit there, Hotel Rivazza, on the inside of the circuit with a view down towards the braking zone of the Rivazza chicane. A double room tonight, oh no, this is in 2 weeks' time, would only set you back $115.
Hey, that's pretty good, honestly.
It's value.
Yeah, definitely is. Maybe we can, maybe if I win the lotto and get enough funds to travel to Europe, we can grow it up at the Hotel Rivazza.
Yeah, and they've got an attached restaurant and beer garden, so I think even if there's nothing on track, worse places to be, but if there is, you can get there for a race weekend. I'm sure it'll be absolutely lovely. What else races here outside of, I mean, I'd love to go to a sports car race, but
yeah, you know, the 6 hours for the World Endurance Championship is obviously a fantastic weekend as well, as Hobson gets a little crossed up over the curbs out of Variante Alta. I think largely it's regional European series that race here and Italian championships as well. That's basically what you've got. So your F4, your F3, etc. Of course, your regional F3, not FIA F3, that supports Formula 1. Aside from that, yeah, just there's a lot of activity that goes on the circuit. Test days as well. You know, this track is active for the majority of the year.
it's a bit of traffic, and it'll sort itself pretty quickly, I think. Look out to the right-hand side. Left, there's the hotel.
Ah, yes.
See, the bridge across there takes you to the hotel.
I see. And I mean, how many racetracks can say that they have a hotel next to them? I mean, Yas Marina, obviously, and
Bathurst, VIR.
Yeah, and you know what?
Monaco.
Yep, Bathurst, VIR, Monaco, they all have something in common. Prestige. The Bend has a hotel next to it as well.
Inje Speedium in Korea.
That's a track that I'd love to see on iRacing.
I want to go there, and I don't know why, but I think it'll be good fun.
Yeah, I've watched onboard laps of that place, and it's an immense track. It looks super entertaining to drive around.
You won't be allowed to say anything bad about Hyundais or Kias while we're there.
Oh yeah, certainly not. Now though, it is an Audi. Oh, hello. I like the look of that word.
That is up there with one of my favourite Italian words.
Yeah, mine too. And that's the view that you can get if you stay in that hotel.
Oh, it's not bad. We're selling it. We should get a discount.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't say no to that. Brenton Hobson and Damon Mulqueen are saying no to staying out on track for another lap. In they come for their mandatory pit stops. That just leaves Robbie Bradbury as the only car yet to take a stop in TCR. We'll see if he follows them in. He does not. He's going to go on for at least an extra lap, and oh no, Brenton Hobson overshooting his pit box, and oh dear, I think things have gone very wrong for the Synergy 88. Mulqueen is already away, and Brenton Hobson, with a mistake in the pits, has lost the effective lead of the TCR class.
He just got it wrong some way there. It's like, was he in his pit stall, and then he's like, oh, this isn't working? Rolled forward, still no. He had two goals in it. I don't understand.
Yeah, that's not ideal at all. And ultimately, his pit stop was 6 seconds slower than Mulqueen's. That's the gap between them now. Goodness gracious, Mulqueen with a gap of 6.8 seconds over Brenton Hobson, just in time for Russell Pepperell to arrive on the scene there. And what this has done is it's given a little bit more of a chance to Robert Henry to try and get onto the TCR podium. We have our first taker in GT4 meanwhile. Here comes Taylor Oakes. And he was quite a ways behind Peter Pavlovich at the time, around about 15-20 seconds or thereabouts. But the McLaren will come to a stop on the lane as Pepperell makes his way past the traffic of Mulqueen. Those are your two leaders in your two classes here tonight.
So it would tell you 6 to 7 seconds lost by Hobson. It felt like more. Is done with the McLaren.
And here comes Bradbury. Don't forget that Brenton Hobson was holding on to the TCR lead by about a second or so when he and Mulqueen came into the pits. So really, Hobson's lost something along the lines of 7, maybe 8 seconds thanks to that error. And I don't think he's going to gain it back in the last 12.5 minutes. Pepperell, meanwhile, is in, and what we've got to do is wait on Peter Pavlovich, and that will be all of our cars having made a stop in this race. Pavlovich has just exited Rivatsa 2, and he's going to try and lead a lap here. Pepperell still at a standstill, and Pavlovich will have been classified as second on that lap, but I'm pretty sure he'll be able to at least lead a lap here.
Will be the very, very last driver to hit pit lane. Everyone else has been through, and if you look at every other TCR car, their stop was 12 seconds, Brenton Hobson 19, so I think pretty easy to say 7 seconds lost from that, from Brenton Hobson, and not a whole lot of race left to try to make that up.
Yeah, can he do it is the question. 6 or so seconds behind Mulqueen, 5.5 by the timing that we're seeing. Hobson has more often than not been the faster of the two main Synergy cars in this field. In qualifying, over a single lap, he was only 3.5 tenths faster than Mulqueen. So, do the math. It looks like the TCRs will only have 6 laps remaining. And Hobson, I think, can gain a maximum of about 2, maybe 2.5 seconds, unless there's a mistake from Mulqueen. Meanwhile, the team cars together once again here. Bradbury and Pavlovich saying hi to each other out on the racetrack. Same for the Kiwi Sim Racing guys, Pepperell and Robert Henry. And in comes Peter Pavlovich, and the field is cleansed. Everyone will have made their mandatory pit stop here. Now, Pavlovich is going to have to be careful on pit lane. If he makes a similar mistake to what Hobson did, then he stands a chance of potentially losing second to Taylor Oakes. Regardless of what happens, all of the GT4s in this field are guaranteed a podium, which is as much of a muchness in the end, considering how small the field is. But you never know. Could be a chance for Taylor Oakes to make up some time, but Pavlovich has already completed his stop, and it was 2 and a bit seconds faster than Taylor Oakes' stop.
Yeah, just a tiny bit shorter than Pepperell as well, but feels like it makes sense if they saved a bit of fuel to get there, the last driver to stop, and then inside the final 10 minutes, and maybe they need just a little bit less than some of the other drivers who might have been thirsty stopping earlier.
Well, we've entered the final 10 minutes of the GTC here at Imola. And have a look at the last lap time here. Goodness me. Hobson making up nearly a second on the previous lap. So maybe we should scratch that discussion we were having a few moments ago. There is potential here that Hobson might be able to make up that time, but it's going to be difficult. to maintain a 1 second a lap faster pace difference over the course of 5 laps in a row. I mean, we've seen it happen before in various categories, but I don't know if Hobbo can do it.
Definitely something to keep an eye on to the tail end of this race. And it's the closest cars in any category to watch. By sector, look at that. So not a whole lot through the middle, but sector 1, which is basically from the start-finish line to Tosa, on the way into Tosa. Sector 2 is from on the way into Tosa around to exit of Upper Monroe, I think. Do you have a track map that shows that?
Wow, he took out even more on that lap there, did Hobson. Look at how much is pushing in the background, just touching the gravel trap on the exit of Villeneuve. Seems like Mulqueen is struggling to maintain pace there. Hobson is absolutely flying right now. He set his own fastest lap of the race, and that's also the fastest TCR lap of the entire race as well, 1 minute 54.5.
You never say never in racing, and I've said this before in similar words, and think about it commonly, that if your football team is 50 points up with 2 minutes left on the clock, you cannot lose. But if your race lead is a minute and you break down out of the final corner and don't cross the checkered flag, you don't win.
Yeah, good point. It is never over until the checkered flag flies, and anything can happen.
Toyota 2016.
Yeah, God.
Make it sound like a Bible verse, but for them, it's probably a scripture of reliability that they've clung to since then. Such a painful moment for the Toyota World Endurance program. Again, just demonstrating that you have to not count anything in motorsport until you've crossed that checkered flag on the final lap. No leading gap is safe until it's a whole lap.
Exactly right. And the gap has come down to 3 seconds now between Mulqueen and Hobson. Further pace being set, and they still have 3 laps to go, according to my timing, once they cross the line next. So if Hobson can keep this pace up, he might be able to get to within a second of Mulqueen by the time they get to the final couple of corners. If Mulqueen makes a couple of errors, then he's definitely in this one.
I do have the live timing link in the YouTube chat if you want to click it. Pit stop times and all of that, and then also live gaps across the rest of the field. This is the one that going to matter. Getting lurking, looming. Hotel Ravazza, if you want it for 4 nights during World Endurance Championship in April next year, that's $2,000.
Yeah, makes sense. Jack the prices up on a race weekend. Make hay while the sun metaphorically shines. There is no sunshine on Imola at the moment in sim. Still very grey and overcast out there, but I think Hobbo's liking that. The track has remained at 21 Celsius, and cooler tracks generally mean there's more grip available without overheating the tyres, and laps in general are faster. We'll see what the laps are like this time around. Mulqueen with a 55.5 and Hobbo with a 54.6. So that's yet another massive chunk of time taken out, with 3 laps to go for our TCRs.
You've got to keep an eye on it all the way to the checkered flag. And the thing you always remember when you're in the TCR cars in a race like this is Barney doesn't care who the TCR leader is when he waves the white flag and the checkered flag. He's only looking for the GT4 leader. So if you're about to get lapped by the outright leader but don't, then you could get sent around for an extra lap longer than you might expect There he is, patiently. He's got the flag in his hand. His Wild West shootout, you know, in the middle of town. He hasn't reached to bring it out the holster yet.
Yeah, not quite. See how much Mulqueen was struggling with the rear end there, coming into Acqua Minerale. It looks like the back end of that Hyundai is starting to get a little bit leery for Mulqueen's tastes, and you see Hobson creeping ever closer. Pepperell is just coming up to Variante Alta now. These guys have just exited it. So there's a chance that he might get by them before the white flag flies. It's going to be 2 laps to go for our GT4 leader when he crosses the line next. And well, you got to wonder, will this TCR race end up going a lap short? Because at the moment, that is not what Brenton Hobson wants. And I see the link that you just posted in our broadcast chat on Discord, David. The pizza menu, Variante Alta Ristorante. I mean, 4-star rating, and I like the visual style of that menu. Shows you it's a legit pizza place. Yeah.
Got Margarita, Ciclista, Buffala, Svisizzosa, Fantasia, Delicata, Montanara, Parmigiana, Frutti di Mare, Capricciosa, Marinara. I'm only a third of the way through that pizza menu, so I think all the fans on the hills everywhere around, they know that's one of the spots to hit up from. I've got to imagine. Quality feed.
Yeah, I could
It's
go for
starting
the
from €4.
Yeah, that's not bad prices at all. Sviziosa, I think, might be... I don't know if that has any relation to the Sicilian Sfinzione pizza, which is the basis for the Detroit style in the US. But you know, if you live in Imola and you've been to that restaurant, let us know if you've had that pizza menu and what it's like. Because man, it is making me pretty hungry right now.
Yeah, of all of the words on that menu, mozzarella is definitely the one I understand the best.
Yeah, I understand pomodoro as well. It's tomato. And aside from that, fungi, mushrooms. I'm up for those exotic names. Here we go. The TCR lead is really starting to close up now. And it looked like Hobson made up a lot of time on Mulqueen in those last couple of corners there. Pepperell gets the white flag, so the TCR leaders will be able to battle for this final lap. I'm wondering if Mulqueen got a slowdown coming out of Rivazza 2. It's very easy to cut those corners and potentially get a bad run down the straight. It is on for the TCR lead on the final lap of V8SCOPS supports GTC here at Imola. With such a small field size, I'm really glad I can say that.
Last lap for Russell Pepperell also not particularly rapid, but he will have taken the white flag. So then around one more for these guys. I don't think that they've seen the white flag yet, so they've probably got 1.5 laps. And this is Brenton Hobson breathing down the neck of Damon Mulqueen, who's already taking defensive lines through these corners.
Yeah, it's definitely on now. Hobson all over the back of Mulqueen into Acqua Minerale. And this is the place where Hobson has generally made up a bit more time in the last few laps anyway. It's in those braking zones. We'll see if Mulqueen gets a good exit here out of Variante Alta. They both bounce over the curbs, and Pepperell, I mean, he would have been with them at this point, but it looks like he's letting them race, which is a great display of sportsmanship there from our GT4 leader. So far in the lead that he doesn't have to worry about losing time, letting these TCR drivers battle their way to the line. Let's see who gets the best exit out of Rivazza 2. Is there anything here that Hobson can do on the exit? Mulqueen gets a slightly poor exit. He's trying to break the draft. Who's going to get it done here is the big question. He's going to let them go an extra lap here as Pepperell crosses the line to win our GT4 class. Brilliant stuff, but it is still on for the top two in TCR, side by side between Hobson and Mulqueen. There's a little bit of space there. They just lean on each other through Tamburello.
Hobson not able to get around the outside of the first part, not able to really claim the inside of the next bit or get a much better drive down the straight here towards Villeneuve, but he's looked stronger in places. But the thing is to get a good run and to use your racecraft against a driver who's willing to be incredibly defensive, because after all, it is the final lap. You pull all of your tricks out of the bag.
Yeah, one of the tricks that Mulqueen used there was just sticking middle of the road, and he's using those defensive tricks as well. Around the outside of Piratella, it's a brave move for anyone to make, but Hobson's going to try and get it done. He remains level with Mulqueen on the exit, uses all of the curb for a bit of extra momentum, and he's ahead coming into Acqua Minerale. Great pass for the lead. Is there anything that Mulqueen can do to fight back?
The answer is just two braking zones. Can't run too wide on the outside of Acqua Minerale there or get a slowdown, but both of them are good. So it's defend the inside of Variante Alta and then defend the inside of Ravazza is Brenton Hobson's best hope. So much pressure on him. Big braking zone at the bottom of the hill here as well. And the checkered flag, the timing line, is a long way down the straight after the second Ravazza.
Yeah, so Hobson has to nail the exit and hope that Mulqueen's not close enough to get the slipstream. We've seen that it's worth something, not quite as much as at other circuits or in other categories, but have a look at the line that Mulqueen took there. But Hobson is just able to get a slightly better run out of the corner thanks to the DSG gearbox of the Audi, and the race will be decided in Brenton Hobson's favour. What a fight back from that error-filled pit stop there from our championship leader. Hobson wins at Imola.
Yeah, great racing for that win in TCR and so much pace. But you need to have a good pit stop.
Yeah, indeed. Well, for our GT4 class, Pepperell 26 seconds ahead of Peter Pavlovich, with Taylor Oakes coming in just under a minute behind our GT4 leader. That's your top three, and the only three GT4 cars to take to the start here tonight. Meanwhile, in the TCRs, Brenton Hobson, well, yes, you're right, David, you do have to get a good pit stop, but apparently Hobson's on-track pace was just no match for even the worst of pit stops there. Takes the win by 2/10 over Mulqueen, and thanks to Pepperell splitting them from the rest of their TCR drivers, they made it a whole lap ahead of Robert Henry and Robbie Bradbury at the very end. All up, I think that turned into a pretty good race. Well, we're going to, before we step away for a bit here on SimSpeed TV, just grab a little chat with a couple of our drivers from this race. First off, we're going to have a chat with Russell Pepperell, our GT4 winner. Looked like a pretty cruisy time out there for you, Russell, but at the same time, pretty challenging track. It would have been difficult to keep the concentration up.
Yeah, Imola's a tough place, so it's quite nice to get around and not have any issues today.
Yeah, indeed. The pit stops seemed to go pretty smoothly as well. How were you approaching the strategy here?
I didn't think there'd be any safety cars, so we just run the fuel out and pretty much see where we land, eh?
Yeah, well, landing on top, and you had such a big gap over Pavlovich that you could afford to let off the gas a little bit and let our TCR leaders battle it out to the line.
Yeah, they were having a great fight, so it seemed a bit rude to interrupt them, to be honest.
Well, regardless, it's a victory for you here and for Kiwi Sim Racing. So big congratulations, Russell. Is there anyone that you want to thank for your efforts tonight?
Yeah, thanks very much. Just like to thank Kiwi Sim Racing and Speed Nation.
Lovely stuff. Russell Pepperell taking the Mercedes-AMG GT4 to the top here at Imola. And we will move to our second place finisher in TCR. David Haynes stood by with Damon Mulqueen.
Well, what a race there. You were able to go with him, Damon, early on in the first part. But when push came to shove, decent bit of pace from your teammate.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that attacking the curbs the way I was doing them may have damaged the underside of the car, or maybe given the suspension a bit of a tweak towards the end of the race. Like basically after the pit stops, I was struggling with keeping the back end pointing where I needed it to go. So unfortunately, that's what happens. Other than that, it was it was a lot of fun. Bobo and I kind of having a bit of a Sunday night drive on a Friday evening.
The more I see racing around this track, the more I've done it, the more Imola it's got more to it going on than Monza, even if that's its more famous brother.
Personally, for like when it comes to favourites, I think I prefer Imola. It's just a bit more of an interesting track. You've got all the elevation changes. You've got you got quite a few chicanes, but they all tend to just, I feel they flow better. Like Monza, obviously it flows, but I feel Monza's pretty straightforward, whereas Imola gives you a bit of a challenge.
And then always got to ask about car selection, what seems like the strength of the different models, what led you and what led your teammate Brenton Hobson to where you're at.
Well, for Hobbo, he just loves the thing of that silly DSG gearbox. He and that car, they just work together like, bread and butter, Bunnings and a snag. Whereas for me, I've just always leant towards the Elantra. I've always preferred the sedan-style looking cars. So it was a difficult choice, but I just don't like that gearbox in that RS3. So that's where all those decisions, I believe, came from.
Don't love just whacking the rev limiter in sixth anywhere with a long straight.
I mean, it is nice until you get passed by people. And to be fair, that when you hit the limiter in that car, it's just the most awful sounding thing. You think you're actually going to break something, or whatever. So I prefer not smacking it that hard and maybe only just hitting it if need be.
I mean, the reality of why everyone went to the sequential gearboxes instead of that DSG is, yes, you were breaking the gearbox every 500 kilometers or so. Lastly, from Imola, favourite pizza? This is a discussion that me and Reese have been having.
Why am I not surprised with you two in the booth? There's been, I'm assuming, a food talk during the race. Well, that's a good one. I'm pretty basic, so I'm anything that's got a absolute gluttony of meat on it. I'm one of those people. The more bacon, the better. So if I can add more bacon to that bacon, then that's good.
Salami, spicy sausage, barbecue sauce?
Just chuck all them. Look, I'm that weirdo that will see if they've got seafood and stuff. I'm just like, just chuck all the meat, put some cheese and some barbecue sauce, and away we go.
Brilliant. Congratulations. Great race that you had today, and enjoy whatever you imbibe and eat this evening.
Well, tonight it's going to be a quiet one, and then Speedway season kicks back up over here tomorrow. So tomorrow night I'm going to get covered in clay, avgas, and who knows what else. So I'm looking forward to it. I've been missing that smell. But yeah, tonight will just be a quiet night.
See ya.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff from Damon Mulqueen there. Still a strong finish. Second place in TCR tonight at Imola. We're going to step aside very briefly here on SimSpeed TV before we get things going. Before we do, have a look at that. Wow, that's certainly a pizza that would make anyone from Imola weep. Well, we're going to leave you on that and go on a quick break here on SimSpeed TV. When we come back, it'll be V8's time in V8SCOPS Supports.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV. V8SCOPS supports from Imola, the third last event of the season in the lead up to the Imola 500, first round of the V8SCOPS Enduro Cup and the end of the 2024 season. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes with me in the comms box. We had a small but nonetheless quite chill and entertaining race in the GTC. And now things are going to be turned on their head. We're going full 180 with some 18 or 19 Australian touring cars ready to take to Imola here. Championship standings in the V8 see Aaron Gilbert on top, the reigning champion. He didn't have the best consistency early on in the season, but he's certainly come to the fore in the last few rounds. Dylan Gray, very strong in second place, but Matt Haywood is breathing down his neck from Team Simblacks Racing. Very close down the championship standings. Otherwise, not much of a gap between any of these drivers, so we should see some good swings in the championship coming up to Sandown in a few weeks' time. So we'll have to wait and see how things turn out here in the beautiful Italian, I suppose, urban landscape of Imola, as we were discussing, David. They're currently in qualifying at the moment, and we're waiting on those first four proper laps. Aaron Gilbert, Dean Alessi, and Henry King, the top drivers so far.
It's got a bit of everything around the racetrack, doesn't it? It's got forests, it's got parks, it's got sporting style, it's got a challenging driving style because of that.
Yeah, and I think that really comes to the fore. You really see the unique style these cars demand through the curved braking zones of Imola, particularly down at Acqua Minerale. Most of the other braking zones are as straight as can be, but you see them slowing down for the Villeneuve chicane, for example, down from high speed and having to flick to the left and keep slowing down for the right-hander. Really shows the kinds of inputs that are required to go fast in these cars. Let's see if DK Motorsports' Dylan Gray can improve on his 142.1. Across the line he will go to begin another lap here down to Tamburello, top speed of about 275 k's an hour on the run down to Tamburello. You only see speeds in excess of that at tracks like Bathurst, so a lot of speed that these cars can really stretch their legs with.
Yeah, again, that long straight, and in these kind of cars, just keep pulling whenever you give them a long straight. They don't, get well off the corner and then start slamming into a wall of air and run out of power at 200 k's an hour. They just keep going. The more racetrack you give them, if Conrod's straight was longer, they'd keep going. So that's what's really interesting about having the really long front straight, and then also these descending parts of the racetrack, the climbing parts. This here, where you've got a long curved braking zone, you really got to slow the car down in the bowl of the racetrack there, and then make a turn as the corner tightens and then turns back uphill and bouncing across the curves. You've got just a little bit of everything around here.
Yeah, and you see him taking a little bit less curb at Variante Alta at the second apex than he does at the first, just focusing on the exit for the run down the hill to Rivazza. In these cars, you're getting on the brakes right as you hit that curb on the right-hand side, and a little bit of a lock-up for Gray on the way in. I think he might have carried a bit too much momentum into there, but he nails the power out of Ravazza too, and will commit to the end of the lap. He'll be hoping for no off-tracks on this lap and a good run to the line. And ultimately, the time is a 1:42.169, and that is just a bare hair's breadth of his fastest time so far. Well, the checkered flag has flown in the session, and we're just waiting on those last few lap times to come in here. Anyone who's currently on a lap is able to finish it, and thus far, it seems like Aaron Gilbert making a massive improvement and is only within a few hundredths of a second of Dylan Gray. Troy Allen is going to abandon his final lap there for Middle Finger Racing. Joe Mahoney, meanwhile, in P6, he's searching for a good result again. Certainly been one of the consistent competitors in the top 10 in V8SCOPS supports, and has even been in contention for a win from time to time. Maybe he'll be able to get it here if he improves, but he does not. He decides to go into the lane, and now I think that just leaves Henry King out here with a lap left to complete.
Yeah, qualifying is a great time to be looking at the timing. Great. He's looking okay on this sector, but Henry King is going to be next out of that final corner. Power, 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 stay to the right-hand side. Stripe across the road is just there. Pretty well in line with the camera because they're well positioned if we are in a photo finish situation.
Yeah, very nice indeed for Henry King. It wasn't an improvement for position, but he did get his time down to a 42.703. And remains in 8th. So, your front row is going to be Dylan Gray and Aaron Gilbert. Those two Falcons looking very strong at the front of this field, and it should be an incredibly close race between these two. The form that Dylan Gray has had this year has been immense. He's a completely changed driver from a couple of years ago, and it's really awesome to see. Let's see what the reigning champion can do to knock him off that top spot. In 3rd place, Dion de Graaf with Rob Crisdale starting alongside him. It seems like our grid graphic has decided not to catch up to the actual results from qualifying.
Yeah.
De Graaf is 3rd.
De Graaf, I think, just snuck himself into that 3rd relatively late on, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So
thrown things away and got him confused. That looks right now.
Yeah, it does indeed. Frog Leap Juiced Racing's Rob Crisdale in 4th spot there. Matt Haywood is going to start in 5th alongside Dean Alessi. Haywood, remember, is 3rd in the championship behind Gilbert and Gray, so he's got to try and improve his position here if he wants to keep himself in the fight. On the next row of the grid, Joe Mahoney starting in 7th place alongside Henry King. King's going to want to vault up a little bit and help out his teammate Aaron Gilbert at the top of that field. The top 10 will be rounded out, David, by Dan Stevens and Gavin Cox, the middle finger duo, rounding out the first half of the field.
Yep, so then in 11th, Troy Allen and Colin Bruns. Yep, what I said matches up with what's on the graphic, so another MFR row there in 11th and 12th. First driver behind a second from pole is Bruns there in 12th. Peter Pavlovich and Liam Wild the next row behind, and then Isaac Edwards qualified 15th, Martin Lipsky in 16th, Sean Slater is 17th, Chris Coxhead 18th, Brett Loxton 19th. Is that a driver to watch?
I would say so. Throw Coxhead in there as well. Slater, also a member of the Team Jinx Shifters conglomerate, you could say, with Coxhead, Loxton, King, and Gilbert. But worth pointing out that Coxhead and Loxton did not set lap times in the qualifying session. Their practice times weren't bad, though. Brett Loxton was 3rd fastest in practice. Chris Coxhead, it seems, 7th fastest in practice. So look for some good runs up through the field from those guys at the back, potentially doing a last to first challenge here. Loxhead and Coxton, sorry. Wow, man, God. All right, look, I'm just gonna move on. There's no recovering from that. 10 seconds remaining on the grid timer. I was going to say those two have been competing full-time in V8SCOPS this year. I have never heard you laugh like that before, David. Usually so chill. But, man, I think that's the most emotion I've ever heard from you.
Oh, I love a good giggle, but normally I try to be a little deadpan, a little dry, but something about that just tickled me in a real funny way. But yes, those two drivers have no qualifying time, but they're the car 208, 209 teammates back there. Definitely competent drivers in this car. I've been on a bit of a soapbox lately about race car headlights, particularly the new Peugeot 308 TCR. So I am delighted to see particularly a couple of Falcons on the grid here with some proper headlights.
Yeah, as am I, particularly our man in first place there, Dylan Gray. Okay, Reese, breathe, wipe the tears from your eyes, and get ready for a 40-minute race with a compulsory pit stop. Let's go for V8s here at Imola. The revs will rise momentarily. Get ready for the call of the green flag. Who's going to get the best run off the line? Hitting the rev limiter at 7,500 RPM, and the power is unleashed. Have a look at that initial getaway there from the Simblacks car of Dion de Graaf. He's trying his best here. Chris Dale got a great start too, but there's nowhere for them to go. So narrow on the run into Tamburello. Gray is going to lead through turn one, vaulting across the curb. Gilbert just stays out of the rear of him, and it looks like a clean start for everyone else in the field through turn one as well.
In the mid to tail of the field, Liam Wilde didn't get away well, but everyone got around him, so he's dropped back to the 19th position. Brett Loxton got a very good jump, so a few drivers swamped Liam Wilde as he either got wheel spin or he wasn't revving at 7,500 RPM and it bogged down. Either way, not a perfect launch from him.
Looks like Isaac Edwards and Martin Lipsky also losing positions at the back of the field there at Tosa. Lipsky just falling behind Sean Slater. Already some big moves up from Chris Coxhead and Brett Loxton, up 4 spots each, currently sitting in 14th and 15th. And Coxhead is going to try on Peter Pavlovich, who's one of the few drivers winning double duty tonight. Remember, we saw him in the Mercedes GT4 just a short while ago. So let's see what he can do. Only car outside the top 6, still in the position he started.
Yeah, shuffling around through the mid to tail of the field, but everyone got away smoothly up front to Dylan Gray into the lead of the race from the pole position. Good getaways up front.
Out of Ravazza 2 we come. And Dion de Graaf is going to try and defend. Meanwhile, there's Pavlovich having to make way for both of the Jinx Shifters Commodores there. Loxton not able to find a way through, but Coxhead's been able to do it. Up 5 spots now, and they'll both have the inside for Tamburello. Meanwhile, Middlefinger Racing trio are racing hard. Colin Bruns and Troy Allen trading positions there in the Commodores on the way down to the first proper turn of this track. Dan Stevens losing 1 spot to his teammate Gavin Cox and rounding out the top 10. Pretty much everyone else has gained or lost at least 1 position, aside from Troy Allen, Colin Bruns, and the entirety of our top 6. Dylan Gray still leading from Aaron Gilbert by just over half a second at the front of the field. And it looks like they're starting to break away from de Graaf and Christoph.
Yeah, the middle sector of the race here is kind of separates the quicker drivers from some of the others, gives us a bit of field spread, doesn't provide a lot of slipstreaming opportunity, and kind of lets, you know, the leader build a little bit of an advantage before you get to that exit of the second Ravazza and have the long front straight with a fair bit of toe to be had down to the big braking zone with Tamburello. Every braking zone is bigger in these cars than it was in the GT4 and TCR. This is going to be Liam Wilde's getaway, or lack thereof. First of all, the reaction was slow, and then it was wheel spin.
Yeah, big old number 11 being left off the starting grid there for Liam, and he immediately fell to the back of the field. Well, he's still running in last place at the moment, but could be catching up to Martin Lipsky in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, here's Henry King trying to battle for 7th place here with Dean Alessi, the top of the middle finger racing cars in this field. MFR with a solid turnout here tonight, and it looks like Brett Loxton has managed to succeed in getting past Peter Pavlovich there, as the fastest lap will go to Dylan Gray. He's looking lovely and comfortable up the front.
Yeah, those 2 drivers from the back of the field without qualifying times making more progress. So past Pavlovich went Brett Loxton. Chris Coxhead has gone past Colin Bruns as well. So that's what you're going to see here. There's 1 move, and Coxhead was already ahead of Bruns at that point as well.
Pavlovich.
Slowly making their progress lap by lap, a couple positions here and there.
Yeah, Pavlovich is dropping down the order a little bit. Yeah, it's steady. I think they're just waiting for the pit cycle. Henry King, meanwhile, has just lost that position to Joe Mahoney. I think he got a slowdown or had a problem on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane, so he's falling back into the clutches of Cox and Stevens. And this is Dan's view coming into Acqua Minerale. Had to slam on the brakes there to avoid running into his teammate. You know, the speeds that these cars reach, it's incredible that they make it through most of the turns here without hitting each other. But we'll see what Stevens can do here. He definitely looks stronger on the brakes than Gavin.
And the best speed trap speed I've seen is 283 k's an hour, or as Mark Scaife would say, 300.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh dear. Yeah, someone should really tell him, shouldn't they?
The best is when it's on screen too, and he still says it. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's slightly disputed. Like, it's fast. It's really, really fast. You don't need to lie about how fast these race cars are. They feel so fast. No traction control, no ABS. That spool differential you were talking about. They've got skinnier tyres than if they were a GT3 car or something. They feel bloody fast. That's what they are.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why we love them so much. That's why we love this category. Meanwhile, oh dear, looked like a little bit of a scramble there for Liam Wilde, and ultimately it sent Martin Lipsky wide at the Ravatsas, and around Wilde went. So we'll see what he can do from here. As Troy Allen, it seems, has gotten a slowdown. He's fallen down the order himself.
Yeah, I think going into Villeneuve chicane, something's gone wrong, and he's shortcut it, having gone across the gravel, and that's where the slowdowns come from. So on the way into Villeneuve, battling here, misses his braking point, goes on wide, and skips the whole chicane.
I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Usually there's contact involved, or someone's making a huge mistake when they've already committed to the corner, but it seems like he just completely missed the braking point and decided, okay, it's probably safest if I just tour straight across the gravel trap. Things are starting to get a little bit hectic in an up 8. Remember, neither of those drivers qualified. While Henry King, it looks like, has gotten past Joe Mahoney a little bit earlier up, and they're trading spots. Mahoney with a better exit out of the hairpin than King. There's battles going on everywhere you look here. The only car not involved in a battle in the top half of the field is Dylan Gray, our leader. He's extended the lead to over a second over Aaron Gilbert.
Heaps of action at towards the corner through the field there, and then it sets them up for the rest of the lap here. So they're side-by-side battling there. Daniel Stevens battling side-by-side. Loxton around the outside. Loxton gets good traction through Acqua Minerale. Italian for Springwater. That very nice Italian food. But this is the continued rise through the field. Chris Content and Brett Loxton, both of them +9 positions. Not 10 minutes into this yet. We're still expecting pit stops. It's good racing. The track looks a little cooler though from previous races.
Yeah, the track is looks to be a degree warmer, 22 degrees Celsius, with it still being very cloudy, but it's a lot less windy than it was in GTC, which I suppose is helping the high-speed behaviour of these cars a little bit. Meanwhile, Rob Crisdale, he is still behind Matt Haywood, but he did briefly get past him here. Looks like Haywood just going a little bit deep there into Acqua Minerale and losing it across the curb. And Crisdale was right there to try and take advantage, side by side into Variante Alta, and just decided to back out. So Matt Haywood seems under pressure. That happened right before that incident we saw earlier there for Alessi.
Yeah, and then Alessi loses 3 spots. He's slow all the way down and about to lose a couple more. So really good qualifying from Alessi starting on the 3rd row. Now he's right in the middle of this pack here. We've got 8th through to 15th. Pit Pavlovich in the light blue machine from the Pacific something. Oh my goodness, holding on at the tail. Go Pelicans. They say go Pelicans. Pacific Esports Racing with the Pelican.
Indeed, Pavlovich trying to make up some extra time here. He's fallen to 15th. Oh, in a big way too. Oh, he's in the wall. Chris Coxhead with a massive issue there. Made his way up to 9th, got into the top 10, and now he's fallen all the way back to 16th place. And looks like Lipski's had a problem too. Lipski looks decidedly more damaged there. If he can't get back to the pits, we might see a safety car. So a lot has gone on there. Looks like Coxhead, it was a botched move on Gavin Cox. He just went way too deep into the corner. We'll see what happened to Lipski first, though. This is at Aqua Minerale, and he locks up on the way into the corner, gets on the curb, and, well, you get off the curb, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do to arrest the spin there. There was heavy contact with that concrete barrier, and the front right is destroyed.
Right at the end of the concrete barrier as well, it's given him massive steering damage. He can't move. There's where he's stopped, up against one of the sound barriers that keeps the peace for some of the neighbours, and also there's a retaining walls the racetrack's built into the side of the hill. Safety car activated. You can look at this replay.
Yep, safety car's out as we see Coxhead make his mistake just too deep into the chicane, and ended up trying to compromise and spun the car in the process. Well, now the safety car's out for Martin Lipski, and this has given a chance for Coxhead to try and make up some time again. If the race had continued as is, then he would have had a big battle ahead of him, but now move to our leaders here. They're trying to get to the pits as quickly as possible. I think we're far enough into the race now that you'd have to pit under this safety car.
There's a brick building there, up against the concrete fence where he's parked it. Brick building. It's someone's garden backyard shed. Probably got their mower in there and a bit of outdoor furniture for when the summertime comes. Pit lane is going to be busy behind the safety car.
Yeah, Dylan Gray staying out. I don't know if that's the right decision there. He's going to continue on, but yeah, he comes up behind the Proven Energy Porsche Mission R now, and he's basically locked himself into falling down the order later on. Gilbert and DeGraaf, I think, were going to pit anyway. They would have had to, but I'm perplexed by Gray's decision to stay out here.
Yeah, I'm trying to see the benefit to it, because for everyone else it seems like cheap pit stop. It seems like fresh tyres when they've been locking them up, sliding them around.
Yeah, the big advantage is going to be with Gilbert and everyone back. It looks like Troy Allen, Colin Bruns and Isaac Edwards have also decided to stay out, and I think that decision makes more sense for them because they were in the midfield and Isaac Edwards a little bit further down besides. Staying out and getting track position on the restart could potentially fall your way if there is another safety car later on. Considering how tight and chaotic the racing has been, I do think another safety car is likely, like, you know, it's just leaning on the side of likely, but still, man, if I was in any of these guys' position, I would have pitted.
Yeah, I think so. I don't see how, even if there's another safety car, this helps you, because if there's another safety car, you pit, everyone else doesn't, you're at the back. Slightly fresher tyres, but again, you're at the tail of the field, so...
Yeah, probably a little bit of regret emerging from our top four here as the field is all forming up behind the safety car.
That's their garden shed.
Ah, I see.
That's the people keeping the garden shed. A couple of old bicycles.
Earmuffs.
Lawn, you know, the sort of like the edging tool to, you know, when you as your grass butts up on the paved path, and the bird feed.
Yeah. I would presume earmuffs are a solid likelihood of being in that shed, considering you are right next to an active racetrack?
Well, apparently just 2 ladders. So
Yeah, okay. What, for invading the track in the middle of the race, maybe?
changing some signage, getting up to replace a couple of tiles on your roof. Again, that underpass under the track here is another way that you can drive through to the restaurant. But that looks like a good little home spectating situation.
Yeah,
Got a bit of
that's
Conrod
nice.
Straight about it. Yeah, give us the view. Okay, slightly. I reckon you could peer underneath that tree at the exit of Aqua Minerale. So, yeah, that's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, fair view.
No,
Looks
that's
like-
a town along Great Ocean Road in Victoria.
Well, Colin Bruns and Isaac Edwards have decided to come into the lane. They will fall all the way to the back, and it looks like Chris Coxhead has decided to come in for a second stop. Unsure exactly why. I think maybe potentially getting some damage repair, as it looks like incident is under review from race control. Troy Allen, Colin Bruns, and Peter Pavlovich at turn 8. Now,
Safety car procedure. So what the safety car was called, as the passing still happened? They didn't respect the safety car as early as they should, or because once the safety car's called, it's no passing.
we might have to look a bit further into that. Apparently,
Opposite. So they were a bit too debris, rather than going too fast after the safety car called.
yeah, they weren't going fast enough. Because it is expected, you should drive carefully, obviously, once the safety car is out, but you shouldn't be driving too slowly, because that can unfairly back your rival up, and ultimately that is against the rules. So we'll see if race control decide either way on that. We'll also see how the restart goes for Dylan Gray and Troy Allen. Remember, Gray started on pole position, but he made the perplexing decision to stay out under this safety car. He will have to make a pit stop later on in this race. Everyone else, aside from Troy Allen, has already bolted some fresh tyres on and gotten the fuel in the car to get to the end of the race. So Dylan Gray is on the back foot here. I think priority number 1 for him is to try and build a gap, but even then, I don't think that's going to stem the bleeding that he'll ultimately suffer.
Once that safety car hit the gas. I think there's 2 horsepower modes.
Yes, big power out of the Proven Energy Porsche Missionar here, and when they let loose in a qualifying session in between groups in V8SCOPS proper, you see that car actually has some really incredible pace and could actually compete, if not beat, these cars on certain tracks. I think it's a good thing that we hold that car back, use it as the safety car in these series. Well, the restart is upon us. Dylan Gray goes for it out of Ravazza 2, and the green flag flies. We are away once again and racing in the V8's support category. Simblacks versus Simblacks coming into turn 1 here. Dion DeGraaf and Matt Haywood, Rob Crisdale absolutely going for it in the braking zone. That is insane there. Haywood, oh no, they've come together. Haywood and Crisdale off the circuit there. I think Haywood was taken by surprise there. He was trying to lift off behind his teammate. Crisdale just saw the door open and tried to walk right through it, but it was only half open. That's a free position, at least for Chris Coxhead and Peter Pavlovich. It looks like Dean Alessi has managed to get 2 spots back thanks to that.
Yeah, a bit of a lock up from both. Car on the outside, then getting the inside of the next curb, bouncing across, causing an incident.
surprised to see the race controllers immediately reviewing that decision as the fighting continues further back. Chris Coxhead on the recovery here, back up to 6 places up from where he started. He was so grateful for that safety car coming out. It happened right after he had his spin. Now he's going to try his best to fight up into the top 10 and join Brett Loxton, who now sits in 6th place, 13 spots up for car 209, and doesn't seem to be under much pressure from Joe Mahoney.
Just a couple of cars that have stopped Dylan Gray, Troy Allen, everyone else. Looks like they're game to go to the end. Perhaps with Dylan Gray. We've seen a lot of battling through the middle of the pack. That's what can build you a bit of an advantage. It's another new fastest lap of the race. Dylan Gray doing what he's got to do, hoping that Troy Allen can back up a little bit here. So it's not easy goings for Aaron Gilbert or Dion DeGraaf or any to get by Troy Allen just yet.
Yeah, what can be done? A cork in the bottle. And I think this is exactly what Dylan Gray was hoping for. You know, he needs as much of a gap as he can. When he eventually takes his pit stop, he needs that time, but it's all for nothing now as Aaron Gilbert passes Troy Allen at Tosa. Dion DeGraaf is going to try his best to work his way through at Piratella. Behind them, King and Loxton. How many positions is Troy Allen going to lose on this lap? The other cars have a big tyre advantage, and you can see it on the exit of the corner. DeGraaf taps him, almost spins him. Man, I think due to the camera angle that looked a tiny bit worse than it was, but regardless, oh, the drama's continuing here. DeGraaf is going to get caught up behind him, and Henry King and Brett Loxton have nowhere to go. This is bringing Mahoney, Cox and Stevens right into the fight again.
And the only car that's gotten through here, Aaron, the number 1, getting past the car that hasn't stopped yet. You better believe that he's been unleashed and Gilbert got freed.
That's another box check there. Henry King trying his best here to find a way through all of this. Loxton behind. He has got it all in front of him too. DeGraaf is ahead of Allen, but only by a whisker as they come across the line. And it's a big draft train behind Allen here for Loxton and for King in the Falcon ahead. Off the throttle for Henry King. He is not sure where to go. Brett Loxton can't quite find a way through either. Allen locks up into Tamburello across the curb. Careful on the re-entry. He's going to have to let them go now.
Yeah, the flag's out for the slowdown penalty, so he's got to cut the throttle on the way down to the next corner. And with this many cars packed up, a few of them get through. Now he looks discombobulated a little bit as well. There's a few other cars that are going to try to shape up on Troy Allen.
Yeah, how far will he fall is the big question. And I think with the pit stop, he's probably not going to look any better than a top 15 at this stage. Meanwhile, Alessi versus Coxhead here. Chris trying to make his way up into 11th, and he should get it done here at the inside of Piratella. He does indeed. Now Pavlovich will try and find his way through on Alessi as well. It's amazing, after all of this, after all of the drama and the safety car and all that, Peter Pavlovich is still in the position he started, 13th. But that immediately changes as Alessi has a big slide through Aqua Minerale and falls behind Chris Dale as well.
Yeah, the Pelican swallows him up there, getting past him through that. And we've just sort of repacked all of the fireworks and set them off again after that safety car, to be honest. There is a little more strategy intrigue to happen with your leader, with Troy Allen, with did everyone who needed to take a bit of fuel take enough fuel? Now it's just sort of a sprint to the end again.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eye on the lap times for our leaders. Dylan Gray setting a 42.6. 43.0 for Aaron Gilbert. He actually lost time to Dylan Gray on that lap as it's side by side here between Matt Haywood and Troy Allen. Haywood trying to make that recovery from his incident with Crisdale at this very corner. Bit of damage on the 47. The car running third in this championship. He's managed to make his way back into the top 10, so he'll be able to salvage some more points from this with only 15 minutes to go. Doesn't seem like he'll be able to crack the top 5.
action here, looking for the cross back. Oh, it's the crossover's not going to work with Osa.
Oh, and around Dion goes. He's going to fall all the way to the back there. Has to wait for the entire field to go by before he gets going again. Trying his best to make a 3-point or even 5-point turn there. And he will get going in 18th spot. Last car running. Martin Lipsky, of course, retiring after bringing out the safety car with his crash. So, what kind of recovery can De Graaf make? Regardless, still more to come here at the very top of the circuit. Number 3 of Daniel Stevens not having a great run through Variante Alta. And Haywood will try and find his way through here. He's up into 8th. You know, I said that Haywood might not crack the top 5, but 5th is only a few positions ahead of him. Brett Loxton just making his way through there in the Commodore behind the 2 Falcons of his teammate and Joe Mahoney.
Bit of squeeze up against the wall as well. And he's got to be careful. The Armco, as it is mostly, is right there. Stop from Troy Allen. What is that? Is he headed to the paddock?
Yeah, righto. Evidently rear brakes locking, and maybe he's just wanting to retire for a pizza. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But, well, Troy Allen back into the pit lane, and we'll see what happened to him here. Just comes in, lets the jig shifters Commodore go, and yeah, rear's locking. There was just nothing he could do to recover that.
Believe it or not, there's a solicitor's office in some of those buildings there right beside pit entry, completely surrounded by the Imola race paddock. A couple of old buildings survive in private hands.
That's amazing. Maybe some race control deliberations might have to go to that solicitor's office. Hearing that Troy Allen also got a black flag for speeding on pit entry as well. And that's from iRacing, not race control. So, unfortunate for him. Is that a slowdown for Henry King? I think it might be. He had to give up a little time there to Joe Mahoney. He ran all the way across the curb at the exit of Aqua Minerale, but manages to recover all the way out of Variante Alta. Loxton's in 3rd. He's managed to make his way past all of these guys, up 16 spots. What a drive it's been from the 209. And in comes Dylan Gray from the lead of the race. He was 2 and a bit seconds ahead of Aaron Gilbert, and he will lose the lead here. And he might be thinking, oh, I should have pitted under that safety car, but ultimately, this is what he's locked into. The question is, where will he come out?
It's been great for Gilbert, hasn't it? Because now he goes through into the race lead. He's got a bunch of time over the rest of his competitors, just based on how quickly he was able to get past Troy Allen, and the rest were stuck behind for a couple of laps. Aaron Gilbert built a gap, maybe knew that the driver in front was still going to need to pit. And now, Aaron Gilbert's got the biggest race lead anyone's ever had because he's played the perfect strategy and he's cleared, not quite traffic, but cleared the cars he needed to in good time.
He has Dylan Gray just coming out there all the way down in 17th spot. Only car behind him is Troy Allen, who is miraculously still running after all the dramas he's had. That he's going to be a lap down now and letting everybody go, because this race has just fallen apart for him. Such a shame for Troy, but he has further opportunities towards the end of the season. We still have 2 rounds of V8SCOPS supports to go after this.
So while it's not a whole lot of battle 1st to 2nd, it is a whole lot of battle 2nd to 11th. Anyone could stand on the podium. We've seen how quickly Dion De Graaf unfortunately fell down the order dozens of positions. So no one can count their chickens up the top in 2nd, 3rd, 4th. But not bad strategy either from Brett Loxton.
Yeah, Loxton's played it perfectly. He raced well. Safety car came out. He got into the pits, and he's just profited on the restart as well as the field bunched up together. And I think what's defined this race is a lot of drivers have been so focused on each other that I think they haven't been quite prepared for the advance from the likes of Loxton and Coxhead. Speaking of Chris Coxhead, he's managed to find his way up into 8th. It's been a good recovery from him. There he is behind Matt Haywood, and he's looking quick.
Yeah, and there's lots of cars in front of him to try to pick off if he can do it, if he can get some overtaking maneuvers that aren't going to result in turning another driver around or any unfortunate incident. There could be some for free.
Massive from Matt Haywood. Good save. And another good save. But while it might look cool, it's not that fast. Chris Coxhead is there like, yes, okay, thank you. I would like to take this position, but maybe at the next corner.
That's every FG Falcon on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah. Most VE Commodores as well. Oh, here we go. Hearing some breaking news from our producer. We're about to see it here. Drive-through penalty for Brett Loxton for contact with Dion de Graaf. Ah, of course. There was that contact between them at Tosa. That's the whole reason de Graaf has fallen down so far. So Loxton's brilliant drive is going to be stalled a bit here. He's found himself up into second. And he'll have to come straight into the lane to serve a penalty, but not straight into the lane. He'll come around for another lap.
Not happy with it, but Brett Loxton was trying to go from wide to tuck his nose back underneath, and as he did, he got the rear bumper of the car in front on that occasion. A bit more happening from race control as well.
Looks like 10-second time penalty for Troy Allen, and I think I saw something for Rob Crisdale as well for that earlier contact with Matt Haywood. 5-second time penalty for Crisdale, who sits down in 10th spot at the moment. Well, for Troy Allen, he's already toured back into the pits, and I don't think he's going to be coming out, so that 10-second penalty for him ultimately not going to mean much. This is what has given Loxton the penalty here. So de Graaf defensive into Tosa and tried to do the over-under to Loxton, but de Graaf was sticking to the inside of the corner there. I think Loxton might have just been a bit too eager.
The old park it a little bit. You can't just drive through the car in front like that. He's made the move early to defend the inside line of de Graaf, so he's got right to claim it.
They say that chewing gum improves your concentration, and it seems that's advice that Isaac Edwards has taken to heart here. He's had an up-and-down race as Isaac, but still up 2 spots and trying to keep Colin Bruns behind him. Bruns, of course, one of the cars affected by that safety car procedure violation for Troy Allen. Commodore versus Commodore, and Race on Oz versus Middle Finger Racing, 2 teams that have been here from the very start in V8SCOPS supports V8s. We'll see what Isaac will be able to do on at the exit here. Lucky 13th right now. We'll see what Colin Bruns can do about that.
He's eschewing mewing and chewing instead to keep that jawline sharp. He's still sharp towards 13th place.
Indeed. Well, we shall see what kind of slipstream Bruns has. It's not all that much, and they're going to stay as they are for the time being. Stevens, meanwhile, he's right in the middle of this pack. Stretches from 3rd to 9th. Stevens is right in the middle. 3 cars in front, 3 cars behind, all within a second of each other, a little bit wide on the exit of Tosa here. And you see that Stevens is one of a good portion of drivers who race these cars who decide to use the sequential stick and not the paddles, so we can give him props for realism there.
Saw someone last night using the paddles for upshift and the stick for downshift, and I don't know what leads a man to that situation, but it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, now we keep our eyes on what is now a 3-car battle for 5th place. It looks like the gaps have ebbed and flowed a bit. King and Mahoney have started driving away from this pack. Matt Haywood and Peter Pavlovich starting to drop off from them a little bit, as we only have 5.5 minutes remaining. In comes Brett Loxton to serve that penalty. And away we will go. See where Brett Loxton comes out. Through goes Chris Coxhead to 6th spot, so now he will take the title of most positions gained in the field, up 12 and looking at up 13, chasing down Daniel Stevens into Tamburello.
The pit drive-through delta is pretty severe here at Imola because of the speed difference between pit lane speed and how fast the cars are going on the straight there. You don't get to skip the last corner on pit entry, you don't get to skip the first corner on pit exit. So it's pretty severe, it's costing a bit of time. It's also a long pit lane with a lot of garages. Even after the pole 6 garage, the pit lane speed limit keeps going past another set of garages.
It does indeed, and Loxton's immediately on the recovery here. See, he's already gotten right amongst it here, and look at that, he's with Dion de Graaf, the man he made contact with, and which got him the penalty in the first place. This time, there is no spinning contact between the two cars, and Loxton drives it round the outside of the Tosa exit to retake the position. Down to 13th place now. Isaac Edwards is his next target, and I'm also seeing Dylan Gray here, right behind all these guys. See the grey and blue Falcon in the background there? That is our pole sitter, the man who stayed out under the safety car. Ultimately had to pit under green flag and lose all those spots. He's down to 15th, but could be looking at a position just outside the top 10 here if he keeps going.
Tell me 5 laps ago, the Graaf, Loxton and Dylan Gray were top 3.
Yeah.
Here they are. Like, what are you doing here? But what are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how things can change as Loxton just lost the rear end there trying to get past Edwards, who turns in, and that's no good for Brett Loxton. Not a great exit. He's by Edwards, but he might lose the position to de Graaf. He might even lose it to Dylan Gray as well. That's Isaac's view of all of this, and I don't know if he's thinking, man, I just want to stay out of this. Please do whatever you want, guys, just don't involve me. He's going to slow down a little bit earlier, lock up for de Graaf. Gray gets by Loxton, and we'll see what they can do from here. Amazing that they got through cleanly.
I don't know how long it can last like this.
Yeah, how much more can these cars take? How much more can the tyres take with how much Loxton is sliding that thing around every chance he gets?
Gray's got slightly better tyres in all of this though. You've just seen de Graaf have a pretty sizable lock-up. Loxton's treated his particularly kindly either, so I think Gray is best placed to try to get through here when he can. Eventually there might be another mistake with Graaf, potentially another lock-up would open the door for Gray to get through.
Yeah, a lot of potential here. Remember de Graaf, he's had a lot of problems in this race. He pitted under the safety car, but ultimately would have burnt up his tyres with that spin that Loxton induced. So his tyres aren't in as good shape. Dylan Gray with the best tyres of this trio, and a very nice run down the hill. He might poke the nose out. No, he doesn't even have a look. Just allows de Graaf to take the corner here. I think Gray's just waiting for the best opportunity, which is this front straight. Meanwhile, it looks like, de Graaf still not done with Loxton here. Seems like potential blocking violation under review from race control. Same between Isaac Edwards and Brett Loxton as well. I think Brett may be none too happy with Isaac turning in as he did, as there's a lock-up from Dylan Gray around the outside of Tamburello. De Graaf gets sent off the track, and Loxton says, "Thank you very much, sir. I'll go around the outside." But how hard will Gray fight him here? Contact down the short straight between Tamburello and Villeneuve. For now, Loxton having to compromise his line. Gives Gray the inside for Tosa. Loxton once again incredibly late on the brakes, and man, oh god, this whole race has just been messy from quite a few drivers, hasn't it?
They're going to lean into each other a little more here again. This time it was a decision to try to go around the outside of Tosa rather than try to switch back underneath. Around the outside of Piratello yields no grip whatsoever for Brett Loxton.
And in amongst all of this, the race is almost over. We're about to get the final lap starting from Aaron Gilbert in a lap's time. Oh, actually no, Barney's going to wave the white flag. Yep, righto. Here we go then. One lap remains 4-hour leader started in second, 9.3 seconds. Team Jinx Shifters running 1-2 here in the two Falcons. Henry King still trying to keep Joe Mahoney behind in the second place. Meanwhile, here's the battle further back. Daniel Stevens, Peter Pavlovich and Matt Haywood. Pavlovich has found his way up into 7th. That's an incredible turn of events for the man doing double duty tonight. Stevens will get him. Coming into Tamburello, Matt Haywood going to have to stay behind for a little bit longer, but not that much longer at all. Outside of Tamburello exit, where do you go from here? Across the curb and into the runoff area is the answer.
How about another fight? Gray still trying to get through on Brett Loxton. Gray had the shortest pit stop we've seen from anyone, just 10 seconds. So with this white flag flying with just 10 seconds left on the clock, he might run out of fuel.
Oh, that's Haywood spinning around out of Tosa. He was in such a good position, but I think all of that battling just burnt the tyres up. He's going to fall into 10th spot. Fortunately for him, not much pressure from behind. It looks like Dion de Graaf's had some more trouble as well. I see him falling down the order. Man, it has been a tough night if you're a Simblacks driver. The battle for second is still on coming into Variante Alta. Gilbert is so far ahead, he's not even in the picture, figuratively and literally. This 4-car fight for the runner-up spot in this race. For now, it looks like it's in Henry King's hands. Gavin Cox and Chris Cox Head might just be able to fight their way to the line for P4. But Aaron Gilbert coming across the line here. He's going to win V8s at Imola. An absolutely stellar drive. Played the pit game perfectly under the safety car. And Henry King's going to bring home a 1-2 for Team Jinx Shifters. Almost Chris Cox there getting by Gavin Cox there. Rob Crisdale with that 5-second time penalty will finish in 8th spot, and for the time being it looks like the worst he'll get is 9th. Matt Haywood's just too far behind. Dylan Gray meanwhile started on pole, running out of fuel to the line, it seems, short shifting quite a bit, and yeah, I think he's certainly going to be ruining his decision to stay out under that safety car.
Yeah, it's not like he was past the pit entry when the safety car was called, wasn't it? I thought he had the opportunity if necessary. A perplexing decision. Aaron Gilbert clearly made the correct one, and it's paid great benefits for him. But it's not just that he stopped and Dylan Gray didn't when Gray should have. Aaron Gilbert's lead in the end comes down to how well he worked his way through all the traffic of cars that hadn't stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Another brilliant drive from Aaron Gilbert, showing why he is the reigning champion of this category. King and Mahoney will complete your podium. Gavin Cox and Chris Coxhead rounding out the top 5. Coxhead up 13 places in the end after starting from the very back. Stevens, Pavlovich, Crisdale, Alessi and Haywood round out your top 10. And if you're Matt Haywood, I'll bet you're having a bit of a tough time at the moment, losing out on a potential top 6 on the final lap of the race. Liam Wilde, meanwhile, he got a very poor start off the get-go, but ended up finishing 11th. He had a quiet race and managed to bring it home very nicely. Loxton with the penalty is 12th ahead of Dylan Gray, who started on pole. Isaac Edwards finishing 14th ahead of Colin Bruns, and then Sean Slater and Dion de Graaf were our last finishers. Troy Allen and Martin Lipsky ultimately retiring from the race. Lipsky brought out the safety car. Troy Allen decided to call it quits after a speeding on pit lane entry and a safety car violation from race control. That brings the racing portion of this evening to a close, and now we just need to wait for the next couple of drivers to jump on in for a chat, David. Ultimately, another good V8s race. I love this category.
I mean, they sure got into each other in a couple of places, but they also had some good racing in parts as well, and a few drivers who were really able to, in combination with that safety car, make a lot of moves through the field.
Indeed they did, and the action is going to move back to Australia for the final 2 rounds of the season. We go to Sandown for round 12. That's going to be on the 1st of November from 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So make sure to mark that date in your calendar. Got a solid 2-3 weeks until we're racing in Sandown here, and the championship will rapidly come to a close at Mount Panorama in late November to round off the season. There's the celebrations from Aaron Gilbert beginning here. And, well, he was in the championship lead coming into this round. With Dylan Gray's unfortunate strategy fumble, seems like that championship lead will be extended.
Yeah, enough fuel left for the celebrations. No short shifting needed on the final lap for your race winner, because that's everything he had left. You're seeing it post-race across the start-finish stripe.
Well, another great night of V8SCOPS supports action. That's your race winner in the V8s category. Congratulations also to Russell Pepperell and Brenton Hobson, winners of our GTC categories. And that's going to end things off for tonight. Big thanks to the crew at Aussie Online Gaming, as well as Proven Energy on the safety car for your support of V8SCOPS supports. And thank you everyone around the world for watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick here on SimSpeed TV. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy producing behind the scenes. Wait until Sunday. That's when the V8SCOPS Imola 500 is going to get going. The action is far from over this weekend.